Again, those of you who are new, I try to focus on the builders and the creator communities behind the metaverse that you see in Decentraland and in other metaverses, and occasionally I interview people in other metaverses, like in CryptoVoxels, or in this week we're going to showcase Mona again, which I love and I've been building with there too. And this is an interview with the awesome, he's Hard Architect, and his two recent builds in Mona. So hope you guys enjoy, and yeah, let me just hit play. And again, sorry if my webcam didn't work, but you get to see me way too much anyway. Thank you guys hope you enjoy.
Okay, so welcome everyone. Today's project highlight in Cross Metaverse Jump is we have Hard here. He is an amazing builder that I met via Mona, who you guys all know about since I'm always talking about Mona. So yeah, and first off, thank you so much for being here today. It's awesome to have another amazing builder that's blown my mind in Mona. And I'm stoked that you're here to share your story of your builds and all your other amazing projects. I mean, I've been diving down the rabbit hole of what you do, and yeah, I'm super inspired to do more, right? So for those of you who've never heard of you, would you mind giving a little backstory, possibly of your rabbit hole journey into the NFT space?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me too. I love your work just as much as I'm sure you love mine. Really, and I'm just really honored to be here and be talking with you and just be hanging out. So my name is Hard. I'm actually a student right now in college, and I go to architecture school here in Los Angeles. I actually joined the NFT space around March, but due to school and due to my scheduling and everything, I felt like I was in the NFT space trying to make a quick sale, and I didn't feel like I was happy being in the space. But after I left, I decided to come back around September 2021, and strictly just focused on, I guess, like community and, trying to make friends and trying to network a little bit and just trying to understand, what the NFT space meant for me beyond just like shilling my artwork under 1,000 posts, back when shilling was like a real thing. And I don't know, I found it like more enjoyable. And then because of that, I started to make big connections with people I really looked up to. And slowly, the people that I really loved, in the space eventually became cool friends, or at least acquaintances with me. And that led me down, getting to meet people like Andre O'Shea or Stonesy Organic. And, because I met those guys, that really changed my life, because they introduced me to a really open and welcoming community called Server 47. And, now I feel like they're my real homies. I feel like I could just, I text Stones a lot, personally, on my phone. And I think that's beautiful, it just feels really good, because it makes me feel like it's not just an internet connection, and I'm not just here, for his clout or anything like that. We're here purely to support each other, good or bad. We're here for each other type thing. So, and then, so I came into NFT space with community in mind. And then eventually, as the community built up, I kind of felt like architects and architecture in the NFT space was kind of undervalued at the time. And I felt like nobody was kind of representing it at all. So I kind of made it a mission of mine to try to bring that to light and try to bring architecture in the NFT space, and try to talk about that more. And along with that comes world building and that region of the NFT space. So I was able to meet people Fractilians and other people in the Mona group who are amazing, world builders and designers. So now we're trying to work all together now to give the world building and meta architecture people a space at the table for NFTs. So that's kind of my rabbit hole of how I kind of am where I am now. So yeah.
I'm curious, how did you actually find out about Mona? Were you
Oh yeah, so I was actually looking for metaverse design work, because
cool.
because I didn't really know where do I find work, or who can I talk to about these things. So in a couple of Twitter spaces with Andre O'Shea and Stones, I would just kind of like talk about it, like, you know, hey, like I'm down to do metaverse designing. If anybody wants me to do it for them, like pro bono, like I didn't ask for anything, like because I just wanted to get something out there, you know, like to show people. And after I like got one person to like agree to work with me, which I'm still working with them right now, that's when like everyone was kind of like, oh, so he's a metaverse guy. So that's when Andre tagged me under Mona's first ever build-a-thon post. And was like, you got to check this out. And I'm like, and then I like watched the whole video, and I was like, huh, they seem pretty legit, right? And then I looked at their follower count, right? Not saying follower count is important, but like with companies, it's like it gives you an idea of how old they are, right? And like how long they've been in the space. So I was like, okay, they have 700 followers, and I said, that is way too low for how good of a company they have. Like I always talk to Justin and Matt about it, like to this day, like, oh man, I was so sick to my stomach when I saw you guys only had 700 followers. I was like, this is at least a 5K follower account. Like when I met them the first time, I was like, this has to be at least 5-10K already. Like it doesn't make sense. And I keep telling them, I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like this is one of the first times I felt so confident about this. I was like, this doesn't make sense. This has to be higher. And I was like, these guys are gonna be so crazy. Like the file size limit, the quality of the spaces, this build-a-thon, file point. I was like, none of this adds up. And like when I talked to Justin about it, I just saw like they're at 7,000 to 8,000 followers. Now I said, this is what I thought it was like. It should have been already when you guys first started, and that's why I rep them so hard, is because I know like they have so much potential as a team and as a company to do so well, and like regardless if like I stay with them or like whatever, which I do plan like to stay with them and keep working with them, but no matter what, I would still always rep them because they have the best system to build on right now, in my personal opinion, and I will continuously say that until someone proves me wrong.
Yeah, I agree 1000%. I mean, I'm just stoked. Like, I came across it. I don't know if you know Metageist. He's the VR. He actually did the Metanauts thing, and I interviewed him. And so it was one of those, like, I was sitting there in the parking lot of the Metacartel DAO conference, and I was like, what is this? I'm like, this is freaking cool. And so I was hooked from then, and I had no idea. I mean, I come from like, you know, doing art teaching at digital arts. And I mean, I have like probably like thousands of sketches that I've done. Mainly I did a lot of silkscreen and painting, but like they're all worlds. And I'm like, I want to bring this shit to life. And this was like the first place I saw like, this is a way to do it, right? This is a way to like, not just like have like do a creature, but have a world that your creature breathes and lives and moves and interacts, and just everything that it provides. I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but this is a path, right? Like, and again, the community has been phenomenal, and like everything I've learned has been like, the pain has been worth it, right? The reps of building, and it's super addictive too. The first time I saw my because I love using like Gravity Sketch, did Gravity Sketch and built it. I was like, what the look, I'm running around my fucking world. Like, it's just, I don't know, there's that moment that like I'm always trying to encourage others, like in Twitter spaces, like people are like, oh, I want to find a builder. I'm like, learn to build. It really matters that you learn how to actually do it. It's great to work with other people too, but like, yeah. So I'm right there with you. I'm a huge fan, and I'm currently building now in Decentraland and want to experiment with a bunch of other places, like, but it's still the most flexible, right? Like Decentraland is very, you have to build like this. There's limitations on, you know, you have to buy the land or you have to get it lent to you, or just the cost prohibitive, and then it's like what you can actually do within it is nothing like Mona.
Exactly. Yeah. I was talking to somebody because I'm currently designing the Woody's World right now for the Woody's NFT project, and oh man, I had to text Justin like as I was building it. I said, my friend, I am almost capped out at my triangle count, and the file is like 2 megabytes. Like I was so sad. I was like, Justin, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, this is only half the build, and it's like there's only half the build for this parcel. And I was like, Justin, like this is impossible. Oh, I had a question, real quick. And actually, no, you know what? I'm gonna ask you afterwards. because it is a Decentraland question. I was
No, it's
like,
okay because this
maybe,
Decentraland reporter, dude. This is
Okay, okay.
it's all good.
Okay.
Everything's allowed.
So I was gonna ask, like, with the file size or like file height and like those kind of dimension limits, if you were to purchase connecting parcels, does that mean that file size limit like increases no matter where you are on the lot, or is it only like
I think they have to be connected from my understanding.
Right. So like if they're connected and let's say like I have a tree right on a site and it's at the file, like the one parcel file size limit. If I have multiple parcels attached like to this parcel, can I make it bigger now? Like just taller?
I believe I think I'm almost positive. Yeah, it's like it depends on like I've been playing a lot in Builder, SDK, and all that stuff, but it's like it depends on the plot of land and increases the height for sure. The more, I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, that's the case. Like I forget exactly when it is that you can go up more, but there's definitely, I should know this, but I don't. But yeah, that does happen once. So are you guys purchasing? How many plots do you have now?
So they had an option to buy out like a couple of plots, but I think that I was able to like narrow it down to like 16 plots.
Okay, that's a good amount.
That's big, right?
That's big.
That's really big.
But you still like are having issues with the total count?
No, I think I'm fine now.
Okay.
It's like that was for one parcel.
Yeah, one parcel is a pain in the butt. You can't do anything with one. You need like way more. But 16, that's a huge purchase, depending on where you are, right? Like.
Yeah, and I was like, if you look at the Woody's model that I made like on my Twitter, like I hate how like simple it is, but now that I'm like thinking about it, this build was like the file requirements for one parcel. So I'm actually pretty shocked at how like it came out for one parcel, like a one parcel file size limit design. But yeah, I was trying to explain to somebody, the file size requirement thing is part of the game. Like, you have to just kind of like, you gotta
like literally out, part of the game, right?
Like literally, like it is part of the game of building. Like, you think you can build whatever you want, buddy? Like, no, you can't. You gotta,
what are you using to build? Are you using Builder or a Blender, bringing it to SDK, or Blender to Builder?
Yeah, so Builder is like Decentraland's like build thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
I thought you were building in Decentraland, but
no, like I have to bring it into Decentraland.
Oh, okay.
So sometimes I do Rhino first, because Rhino is like my weapon of choice. Like I know exactly how to do everything in Rhino, like pretty much. And but then if I could do everything in Blender, I'd rather do everything in Blender because it's a smoother like transition. Like, because once I jump from Rhino to Blender, the meshes and like the models like they're different. So I usually go Rhino, then Blender, and then I'll go into like Decentraland's Builder.
Okay.
Or like if it was Mona, then it's basically the same flow except from Blender to Unity, and then Unity to Mona.
Yeah, exactly. I add the gravity sketch. So your Rhino is my gravity sketch. And then gravity sketch is just so much fun. You're just like in there in this crazy world. So I haven't played with Rhino though. What's Rhino like?
Rhino is basically the how do I explain this? Rhino, if AutoCAD, right?
Yeah, I know AutoCAD.
Yeah, so Rhino is basically AutoCAD, but on massive steroids.
Is it like SketchUp at all?
It's like if AutoCAD and SketchUp had a baby.
I knew you were gonna say that.
and then that baby grew up to be like extremely tall and buff, and like decided to carry around SketchUp and AutoCAD on its back for the rest of its life.
Damn, that sounds like a powerful, hardcore beast.
Yeah.
Do you use Tilt Brush or Gravity Sketch ever?
No, but I want to try. Like, I really just want to put on like a headset or something and just like play some like opera music and just start going crazy.
Oh yeah,
like,
totally. That's what I do. I have background ambient weird Tron like music, and then just get in there and you're just like, I'm in the software. What am I doing? It's so immersive and trippy.
Yeah, I heard you talk about it one time in a Twitter space where you're like, it's different. Like it's a different, like basically like headspace once you're actually in a software, like versus like working like through a software. You're in the software and
Yeah.
you're building it. And I thought about that. I was like, oh, it must really be different because I was like really just sitting there and just thinking about it. I was like, you're in the software, and I was like, that probably like just leave me like just probably like 10 to 20 minutes just like standing there like.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much me. Like that's the thing. And the cool thing is like you can bring in all these elements of, design. Like I have sketches everywhere around me, and you can blow. The thing is like you can you can play with dimensions so quickly. It's mind blowing. You do this little sketch and you can have different worlds to build in to test it out. But then you can just like, oh, what if this was 100 by 100 feet tall? What would that look like? And you have that direct experience, which you don't have in flat even if you have a little house, you're like, oh, that's big. It's like, no, you're in it. You're like, fuck, it's out there. It's this massive beast about to get me. And it's like, yeah. So it's just in terms of like, and also the mind shift. I mean, it really starts to me, like that's something that would be fun to have a Twitter Spaces on, how it affects your dreams, your reality, your creation, like all the things, how like creating in different spaces. And like, to me is like, I mean, the metaverse is just like the dreamscape shamanic space that's been humanity's been going to forever. It's just now we have digital tools to share it. Before it's more an internal or, like a different dimension that people go to. But now it's like, okay, this is my dimension. Check it out. You can share it. Much more fluid. I don't know. That's a whole nother random rabbit hole. But yeah, let's dive into your worlds because I really want you to share your amazing stuff. And okay, let's see. Let me share a screen share. So we'll do your most recent build, and if we have time, it would be awesome to check out your
my old one.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so much learning to do. And I was like, because I'm a very new I guess like metaverse architect, right? Because and I guess like this could be like the starting point too, is like when building architecture, right? You build for these renders, or you build for like I guess like a way for you to kind of like convince a client or to give a client like a better idea of what your space is going to be like, right? And so you're building based off of these renders. Sometimes you don't even build out the whole building. Like a lot of it's fake, like just so you can get the plans, just so you can get the like all this other stuff done. But in world building or like metaverse architecture, it's different, and I'm still trying to figure that out. Like still learning is the whole experience aspect of it, and actually testing out the space based on the person's perspective in third person view and like first person. And that's something that's I'm still trying to figure out. I tried to do that here, right? So when you start off, like if you look at the floor plan of this church, which you never like will actually see the full floor plan. You just have to try to imagine it, or like I have to show a sketch of it. Yeah. But the sketch is basically derived from old Renaissance churches. So that's
awesome.
That was the floor. Yeah, that was the floor plan that I chose. And then basically what this is like a super minimalistic version of a Renaissance like church with like arches and stuff. And I made the floor like gradient and like translucent, because the reason why I did that was because these arches, right, instead of being like, because I'm a big guy to where like I don't like when metaverse builds are like static on the ground, because like I mean like there's nothing wrong with that, but at the same time, like just for me personally, like my like train of thought is like we can push the barrier a little bit, and I feel totally. So I feel like having floating objects is just like a basic part of it, So for this project, I actually wanted to make the arches, like all the arches in this entire building, like even in the hallways, kind of like shift up and down, or like move left and right, and even like start to rotate to like kind of play with your experience as you're watching it in like third person or first person, and make you really feel like what's happening to this space kind of thing, like what's really going on. But I just didn't have the time to really do that. And then right now you're in like the main atrium space. So if you actually look up like at the top, right? The dome actually like shifts and moves, like, you know, and it's supposed to like give you a like a serene feeling.
There you go. Ooh, that's trippy. That's cool.
Yeah.
And there's really cool music, but I had to turn it off for the interview because if not, it's hard to hear. But like, yeah, the music part is like, does the I was in it last night exploring. Does the music change with each area, or is it consistent throughout the space?
Yeah, it's just consistent throughout the whole space. I'm still learning how to do the soundscape thing. It was like my first time doing it, and I was like, oh, that was easy. But then like, I really want to work with like good like producers or like classical like art, like, you know, like music people, like, and I really just want to like tell them exactly how I feel, and I'm like, this is what I need, like, this is what I want, and like, you know, this is how I want you to feel through this space. Like, I really want to like come up with a full composition like for a space where like you're feeling this, like you're feeling exactly like how I'm feeling. And I just have two like split off spaces, right, from the main atrium, where like, so you're in right now is like kind of like a collective just meeting space, you know, where people just come and just meet with each other. So like I just made like a table in here, like, you know, just to talk and stuff. So I'm starting to learn too, like, you know, there's other ways of like experiencing a space rather than like regular human type, I guess, like type events. And so I do want to start testing that out more, like, instead of, and then like in these rooms I was actually gonna have like more arches shooting off from each side, like and like push off into the distance and just keep going back and forth, like, you know, playing with like your perception as you're in that space, but it kind of really doesn't do anything. And I think you're back in the main lobby again.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was like, it's kind of fun that I got like, it's weird how they now change how you have to like hold the shift to run, which is kind of annoying. I'm like, I just want to run. You know, have you noticed that? How they made that adjust? And then in here is really cool too. This is all your art as well?
No, this is actually art by Stones, the Organic. He does a series called like Spectrum and Deep Theory, where like he's basically expressing like his current emotions over like a set period of time. Like, I believe this is the idea behind it, but he could correct me on this. But it's basically like he would sit down and like the way that he's feeling and the way that, you know, the things that he's going through, he would express that through gradients and colors in this kind of way. And so he has like a whole series, like a lot of these, and I just love them like so much, because like some people would look at them and say, oh, like they're gradients, right? Like they're just gradients, but no, there's a lot. Like when you really look at it, it's like it's a lot happening, and it is emotionally like pulling, you know, when you look at some of them. And so I wanted to feature them because it felt like the only art pieces, like, you know, at the moment that like kind of felt like it kind of feels like it belongs with the space. Like it's kind of, it has that simplicity, it has that gradient color going on, and it just makes me feel like at peace, because there's nothing overly complicated about what's going on. Like, you know, you just have to feel it. So I have to attach those canvases still, like for this space, but yeah, like that's the artwork that I have in this space.
So you were telling me a little bit. I mean, it's so funny. This is usually the case. I have like 3 pages of questions. We've gotten to 1. I love it.
Okay.
No. I'm not saying that like a bad thing. I'm saying like it's awesome because like you're great. It's great having you. You're sharing so many of the things I wanted to ask you. And one of them is like, so the creative process, you said it started with a sketch of a church, right? And then like, how do you, from there, like what tools can you walk us through the creation process for you? I love hearing about that too.
Yeah. So the creation process for me, like it always starts off with a half-ass like Frank Gehry sketch, and a lot of like, if you see me sitting, if I ever am on a breaking point of any creative idea, big or small, I kind of go into like this swirly kind of like mode where like I don't care what I'm drawing necessarily, but I have to put like a pencil like on a paper. And I just start like, I'm not even looking at the paper sometimes. I'm just like kind of just like ping-ponging in my head back and forth, and then like, you know, afterwards I kind of look down and then I rip the paper off and I tape it to my crackhead wall. So I call that name for that wall that.
That's
and I showed it to another person, where like it literally it's just one wall in my like office room, and there's just a bunch of papers like taped up to the wall. Like, you know, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where like, you know, Charlie's kind of like looking all like crackheady, just like, you know, like trying to explain something. So that's me with that wall. And like a part of the process is like it comes off with a sketch, and with the sketch it's not necessarily the form that I'm after, but it is usually a plan diagram or a sectional diagram, because that's how I process spaces.
Yeah.
And then from there I play with how the user is going to view something, like how the person is going to view a space. That's where the atrium idea came from, is that I want to start to have viewers look up into like an area of the architecture where it's actually moving to create like a sense of, I don't know, like a sense of something moving. So not all the domes move.
Okay, I was just checking that.
Yeah.
I was like, I bet you it's just the atrium, but I had to check, you know, I'm like, does this one move?
Yeah, I was like an atrium has to be like somewhat significant, and at the same time, it's like I didn't have the time to like even like move all the other.
That's so cool though.
Yeah, and like so yeah, that's basically like my process, is that it always starts off with a poor sketch, and then from the sketch I start to plan out views and basically like programmatic features that I would most likely want. And then from there, I would love to show you the sketch.
I know, I wish, well, send it to me before, Wednesday, and I can actually show it while I'm live streaming. You know, I could show the sketch. That would be really, I was just going to say, hey, just take a picture in the next few days if you get it, because I stream on Wednesday at 11:30. So anytime before then, or that would be awesome. I would show it.
Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, like I would love to show people this sketch. I'll have to find it when I go back home. But yeah, so that's basically the process of me designing. And then when it comes to the actual like design work, I just jump into Rhino, and I kind of lay out the overall size of the space, like the boundary box. And then from there I start subdividing the space based on like, you know, how I wanna like give off that experience. I'm just very like building this space was very challenging for me, because if you go into the main lobby, right, and you look down the hallway, the arches almost align perfectly, like, you know, fading off into the distance, right, even with the atrium there. And that was hard for me, because I had to figure out the right distance for the arches to where that you could get that effect, because that's not something that just naturally happens, you know. Like
that's difficult.
I had to actually like figure that out, like by putting a person in my Rhino model and shooting like a perspective, like view line from his eyes to the very top of the arch in the furthest room.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, so like that was tough. And then but yeah, I just feel like moving forward now, I want to have a lot more things moving and a lot more like triggers to happen in the space to like, you know, kind of keep people on their toes, and, you know, try to really make the architecture do something that you don't get to see. And I feel like the gradient floor and like the roof moving was just like a scratch. It was just like a scratch on that surface.
No, it's beautiful. And like, yeah, I like it just seems like a really like solid, cohesively designed piece. Like my world is like utter fractal chaos, but this one is like a beautiful, like a zen. Like if you want to go to chaos, go to mine. This one is just like, you know, if you need a crazy party, this one's like the chill zone, like meditative. Like I just love how just from building, that's why I always encourage people to build. Then you really can appreciate like how much work, and like exactly what you're saying. It's not an easy thing to make it look like this.
Yeah, it's not. It looks so simple, but it's like.
But it's not like simple means like that's like, you know, I do normally my graphic design is more like your world. It's more the more minimal. That means it's more of a mastery level. Like you if you put a bunch of shit, it's like, okay, well, let's take away, and then you can get your story comes out stronger this way, you know. And like I don't know, the message or whatever you're trying to share, I think is it's very powerful in here. I love like can you tell us about the floating angelic lights? I love them.
Yeah, so that has to do with my generative project.
Oh, cool.
I was trying to figure out a way of tying it back in, and the idea is like this space was originally designed to be called the Buffet Sanctuary.
Okay,
Right.
cool.
Yeah, because that's another thing too that I started talking about with like one of my architecture groups in the NFT space was that people always ask me like, how do you come up with work or how do you come up with idea for NFTs? Because people see like, oh, metaverse building. I'm an architect. I could do metaverse building, and then like you'll see like a bunch of other people say, we're doing one-of-one architecture art now, and then everyone will be like, oh, let's do one-of-one art because it works, like, you know what I mean? But that's beautiful. I didn't even get to see that. But what's it called? But I feel like there's a lot of creative ways that we can explore our architecture, like, feel, or our world building like feel. And part of that, right, was how do we bridge that connection between the NFT space, right, the community and what they like to to architecture nerds, right? Because not everybody cares about world building, not everybody cares about like architecture. And the way to try to bridge that gap was that I created like I ended up making two or three generative projects, but with one of the generative projects, I'm actually like developing a whole network of metaverses based on like, their storyline and their plot. And that way I can like completely geek out about like, the architecture aspect of things, right? And kind of like provide a stage for architecture and world building in that aspect, while still connecting it back to a generative project that people actually like, really enjoy. So to answer your question, these white specks are actually like the prenatal version of our blue faces. So they're actually like the souls of like the blue faces before they adopt a mask. And when they adopt the mask, that's when they become like the actual ghosts, like the actual booze.
And so how did that's a whole nother awesome thing. Like, so
Yeah.
that I think we have to come back on and talk about that another time too, because that project, like, I dove down. I was like, oh my god, that'll take us like into a 5-hour interview. Like, just briefly, like, if anybody's interested in finding out more, can you tell us where they can go to find out about that project?
Yeah, so you guys can follow the account Boo Faces NFT. That's BOOFACES NFT on Twitter. So it's Boo Faces NFT, and that's basically a project that we're working on in collaboration, or like not in collaboration, but with Bandyland. And Bandyland is basically like our network or our metaverse or our I guess ecosystem right now. So two projects that we're currently working on is the Rare Panthers 3D, which is the one that you see right there, that green one. No, below that one. Yeah, that one. So the one with the hat is like, it's the Rare Panthers 3D. And basically Blue Faces are the companions to the Rare Panthers. So so we're actually working on and then like Blue Faces is like a whole thing. Like we're gonna drop our roadmap, or like our park map. I call it a park map because we're kind of all over the place and not like in a linear sequence. So I would like to have like a Disneyland map, right, of the project, and kind of like show people our progress. And then what you're looking at right now is actually the first project that we worked on together, which is the Rare Panthers 2D, which was the main, like our partners like first generative project. And this is being moved over to 3D now because we're working with Mona to basically include our Panther avatars, like, in their metaverse.
Wicked.
Yeah.
So is there a site for the 3D ones yet, or no?
Not yet.
Okay.
No, not yet. Yeah,
Those
we're
are
gonna
cool.
create. Yeah, we're really excited for it. So I'm working with Justin right now to try to get like a primitive panther, like with no clothes on or anything, in the Monaverse.
Nice.
to see like how that would work. And then after that, we're gonna attach boot faces to them, like, like your own custom boot face, like to like run around with you like in your space.
That is so cool. Would you have to own the NFT to be able to do that? Is it like a token gated kind of thing, or?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think
it's not
gonna be token gated like completely just yet. I think like we're gonna let everyone do it, like, like let everyone try it out, right, to get like a full feel of it. But once like the project actually drops and stuff, that just has to be like an exclusive thing for them, like, at that point. But part of the Boo Faces that's really exciting is that we're developing a game for it.
Nice.
which was like our highlighted trophy moment for the project is that we're developing basically like a Nintendogs / like Tamagotchi game for boo faces, to where like you can take care and raise your boo faces, like, you know, in a game. And with like taking care of your boo faces, you also get like an architectural like space to house your boo faces in, and you can level up your boo faces by like, you know, taking great care of them. And then when we tokenize or like get tokenization for the project, we would like to distribute like boo tokens out to people and like, you know, make an actual like, you know, play to earn game and stuff. But
so are you guys doing like on cyber style, you know how Artifact Studio is doing their pods and things like that for their, have you seen that, what they're doing?
Yes.
Is it going to be like similar to that, like the worlds that they will get to, you know, you're saying the metaverse attached to it? Or?
Yeah, I think I would love for that integration to happen with Mona, like, you know, and really like put Mona.
Yeah,
like,
that would be wicked.
That's what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like I want to take Mona all the way with, like, you know, anywhere I go, I want to bring Mona with me.
No, I agree with you. I was like, but I'm just curious. Like, that's something I think about all the time. I'm always like, it would be awesome if you could do this. You know, I have a list of things that I wish Mona, and I the cool thing is they listen and they actually have been doing so much of what but that would be that would be wicked. Because yeah, I want to have like a master world that I can mint, but also always change. And I want instances of my world. I don't want it to be a 1 of 1. I want 1 of 10, you know, that way you can price it and share it. And then those collectors can create, I don't know. I think there's so many awesome ways that it can go.
and like another thing with the architectural spaces too, that one of the features that we're trying to work on too with the game development stuff that I really like, and some people, like, we got some response back from it, was it's almost like a nanny cam for your boo faces. So like you don't always have to be in that interface to where like you're taking care of them, right? But instead you could be in an interface where like the screen is just on and they're just kind of like free roaming around, like, you know, the world that you have for them. So like if the world that you have for them is like the sanctuary, right, that I had, then you could just turn on like the nanny cam and just let them like roam around the space, like, you know, like on your phone or like on a TV screen, right? And you can just leave the TV screen in your house, and then like it looks like a little like aquarium, like, you know, just for your boo faces. And I think that's kind of exciting too.
That's super cool. So that's great. I mean, like, let me see. You've answered like a lot of in terms of like obviously you're also working with a team. You have your solo projects, like, but most of these worlds that you, like this one right here too, it was like your solo project, but now you're also integrating it into those other projects that you're doing as well. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, that's exactly the idea. And the cool thing about it too is like it doesn't have to be just my world, you know. It could be like Fractilian's, like, you know, blue face space, like, you know, like it could be a space that all of our architecture or world building friends could jump into. And this is kind of like our introduction to the masses, right? Like on a bigger scale, because, you know, with whoever wants to jump in on the generative like project, then now we can show them like these are the architectural spaces your boo faces can go into, and like that's a whole nother experience too. So
they're like the ambassadors. They're like, you know, ambassadors of your project, and also Mona, which is really cool, right? Like the little you're gonna turn on a whole other community of people to like just world building and what you can do with your projects. That's the one thing I love about just metaverse building in general. It's like a lot of artists, like they come in, they mint their NFT, and then they don't necessarily like, okay, that's it. And like for me, viewing NFTs just flat is not as much fun or engaging at all as like going to a metaverse and engaging with the art in that way, or like the whole space being like yours is the art, you know, like this is, so it that to me is where it gets really interesting on like what we've been talking about, like what's possible in the future, how the whole space itself can be part of that story.
I completely agree.
So what about, can you tell us a little bit about, so the what inspired this awesome build?
Oh yeah, so it literally came out of
I love this right here. Look at that. That's so cool.
It's just so like beautiful, like to see the stairs cross out into like the middle of the atrium, and like a lot of the movement in the space doesn't make sense from the interior, which I love a lot. like, you know, like, how do I get there? How do I get there? And it doesn't make sense, like, you know, up until you go outside. But this space literally came from the saying, like, I was ranting a lot in Twitter Spaces, and I was like, why are people making things that make sense? It doesn't, like, it shouldn't make sense. Like, you know, like, why does it all make sense? Like, why are you guys building houses on fake grounds? Like, it doesn't, like, you know, it doesn't make sense to me. It's like, you can do whatever you want. You telling me, like, in your fantasy land that you go to when you're a kid, it was a fucking, like, colonial house? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, no kid dreams about that. Like, George Washington didn't even dream about that. Like, you know, like, it doesn't make sense. So I was like, why don't you guys just make something like in the sky or like in the air? And it's like, you're like, you know, why don't you guys make something in the sky or in the air, or like something like that? And I was like, you could literally put a building in the clouds. And I was like, I'm gonna do a building in the clouds.
That's awesome. You're all preaching to yourself. That's what I gotta do. No, I love, I do love, like, I'm more in your park for sure. Like right now, our Decentraland build is like, we're actually recreating East Denver, which is kind of cool, you know, where it's more the other rabbit hole. And like, I appreciate that for learning how to like actually do it and make it look like that. But for me, I'm in this space kind of like, I love the Mona because it gives me the freedom to do whatever the hell weirdness I want, right? And it's allowed. There's nobody saying that you can't, you know? So it's like, that's when I started creating that world I did now. It's like, it goes down. Okay, let's see where can I fall off the world? No, I could just make it keep going down. And, you know, you went up, I went down, and then it went up again. And then it went, and then I did, you know, and then that's the fun thing. Like, you can experiment with like, just like and also a lot of times it messed up and I was walking on walls. Did you ever experience that where your world would tweak out and I was actually walking up my, when Unity has little heart attacks.
yeah, I know. There was a couple, like when I was making this build, I was like having a lot of errors, like where like my file just wasn't working anymore, and like I was like complaining to Justin, like, Justin, what's going on? Like, I don't know what to do. But there was an update that they had, and I had to keep better track with the update if I'm gonna be repping Mona, because like I didn't even know about like the triggers and stuff just because I was so busy doing other things. Like, I didn't know about all these updates. And then like when people were like, oh yeah, I have this trigger, I have that, and then like everyone's talking about the trigger, I felt like that kid at school that has been like absent. I was like looking at my math homework in English class, like what do you mean there was an essay due? Like, you know, like, I
felt like that this build too. There was so much stuff. And it reaches a point where you can either spend all your energy trying to follow what's going on or actually building. And I chose to build. And that's why like halfway through, I'm like, I was learning all this cool new stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I fucking kind of get it, but I can't implement. I implemented a tiny bit of it. Like I made my bunny turn white. You know, I did. But like I wanted to do so much more. And I was like, you know what? If I go down that route, I'll have no world to submit. Like you have to reach a point where like, I need to cross the finish line. And once I cross it, if I can add cool shit, I'll add cool shit, right?
Yeah. I think I started working on my space on the 29th. Like it was a race. Like I was, and like you gotta keep in mind too, I had schoolwork, and it's like I had like my generative stuff I had to do, and it was like I was hauling ass to like get to that final, like the 29th to the 30th to submit. I was tired. I was like, oh yeah, I'm so exhausted right now. But
I'm glad they extended it a little bit. I was hoping like, please extend it, because I have nothing to turn in. If like it's like last time they gave us a little more time, but like I'm the same boat. I was like no sleep, and like just like if you try to sleep, all you think about is building, so might as well get up and build, you know?
Yeah. Or like when you got no time to waste, you're just kind of like, you're like, you know, you take those little breaks, like, I'm so tired of building, but I gotta keep building.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. We need to like create like a list of funny sayings we all said while we're like crunch time during build, because I had all sorts of moments like that. It's just like, and then like, because you're like me, I'm building in other things, I'm doing other projects, and I have a regular full-time job. So like that right? And so I totally am right there with you. So I'm curious, like what kind of advice would you give builders who are new or wanting to enter this space? Like what would you say to them?
I would say builders trying to get into the space, right?
Or new people, even if they have no experience too, because I'm always trying to help them too.
Yeah, I would say find the community, right? Find the community and start asking questions and learning from people who are already in it. Because most of the time, you would learn more, like a lot more and a lot more efficiently from asking people rather than you watching a tutorial, because a tutorial only helps you with technical aspects, but someone teaching you, like a mentor in the building space, will actually like guide you on creating, you know? So I think that's more valuable. And like that's something that I really believe in. Like, ask for help rather than seeking help, you know, like ask for it, because you will get a lot. You will get a lot more information, like, to me personally, like, you know, you find the right people. And plus, like, all the builders in our space are really nice. So I'm sure a lot of us will talk our asses off.
Yeah, I know. Look at us here. It's like, come join us. We could talk all about, like, that would be cool. They had.
It's like, how do you feel about clouds? It's like, oh, you're asking the right man, sir.
Yeah, I love clouds. All I do, I mean, I have about like, of what, if you look at my photo thing, one of the most things I have pictures of is clouds. Clouds are the ultimate fractal, beautiful. You know, I love anything nature. To me is like, can't get more beautiful than that. So it's like, if I can create something even one fraction of a glimpse of what I see outside, then, you know,
you succeeded.
So what was your biggest challenge with Mona Spaces, or with your build? Like, what is it that you wish like you had?
I wish I had better knowledge of I wish I had better knowledge of user experience, because that was something I didn't realize after I got done building the first space, and then I kind of had more experience with it after the second space. Like simple things, like I really wish that I didn't have these kind of stairs in my project. I wish I converted them into like lifts or something like more simplistic rather than this, because I don't like how when you're moving in this space, you collide with the stairs because of the tight spaces sometimes.
Yeah, it reminds me of Decentraland. Those are some of the issues you have in DCL all the time, like how to get places.
Yes, I was like, this is a major issue, and I'm like really upset about it, because I was like, I didn't know that, you know? That was like one of the first things that like, and then there was another thing in this space too, where I was like, I don't like the fact that you have to like climb your way, like advance your way all the way back up, versus like just having an easy lift to just take you back to the main space. That was another thing. So things like this, like just the overall experience of you feeling out the space and going through the space like a real person, is something that I wish that I knew better, you know, going forward in the space.
Yeah, it would be fun to like, I mean, and that's another thing of time. Like, it would be great to have like a user experience group. It's like before you launch, it's like, or like even before you start, like this is an idea, and like give it to a couple of friends. Well, obviously within the Mona community, I'm sure we could get like 10 people to be like, sure, I'll check it out. This is the shit I live for, you know?
I know, it's like a grading panel. Like, it's just like, yeah, this is like, you know, it's like we all got to review the space and then like write our notes and stuff, and just like, this is what's wrong with the space in our personal opinion. You know, me and James are actually trying to start like a Twitter group, because we realize that we jump in all these metaverse and Twitter, like, you know, spaces, right? And we're always the ones like kind of like talking to other people about metaverse like tips and ideas and stuff. Yeah. So we were just kind of like, why don't we just start our own like Twitter space based on like this, like, you know, not necessarily like architecture or the metaverse, but like kind of like, let's just create a Twitter space where it's like a central location for like all these other metaverse architects to meet and just talk about like these things, like, you know, and like teach people how to like onboard onto metaverse building. So we're gonna call it like this hasn't been confirmed by James yet, but I'm the one that threw it out there because
James is awesome. I chat to him all the time. He's great.
Okay. Yeah, great. Yeah, I love James. James is super cool.
Well, keep me posted. I'm definitely keen on joining that.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're gonna call it the architecture, like the meta architectural hub, or like something with hub in it, like just to let everybody go, like the metaverse hub, just so like people know like this is the area to find all the architects and world builders like talking, you know, because I've been invited to a couple of Twitter spaces where like this is a really big necessity that just came out. Like a lot of people, I guess, really have like virtual land in different companies and different groups, but they don't have any like trustable, reliable like builders guild, you know, like they just don't have it. So originally I was like, oh, let's start like a Discord, let's start like a Twitter, but like I think like if it's similar to like Rug Radio, like Rug Radio doesn't have a real Twitter. They have like a whole Twitter now and stuff, but it's like you don't need a Twitter, right? We could just do a Twitter space and just have like a full like face to face, like live action. Like this is where you can find builders and like connect with them like right now. And you know where it is, when it comes on. And then from there, like, we can just build off of that because it's a big necessity. And it's like I've heard over like 3 different group of people like talk about this. Like it is very much needed. And we have the resource to fulfill this, and I think that we can like use it now.
No, for sure. One of the like Twitter threads or groups that I was chatting with all the builders from Mona. We were talking about the exact same thing, like creating a builders intergalactic builders guild or whatever, something like for all of us to like, share ideas and like. Oh, did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
Okay, cool. I wasn't sure. I was like, it's okay. I'm used to talking to myself. I'm like, I'll just water your space. I just love like one of my favorite things is to just see like the lines of a space, like weird angles to me are just like they're just like frames of, this is an art piece right there. Every single angle to me in worlds that I like are art pieces, not just like the one path, right? So I'm always like always the dork that's like looking up, down, like even in real world. I remember I went to this conference. It was funny. I think you'll like this little story. It was called the Mind States Conference, and they were doing studies on perception. And they went into this. And it was actually before that they did this test. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it. It's the gorilla bouncing the ball. Have you ever seen that video? Have you heard of it? Or
yes.
So like you have to count how many times the people in the group are bouncing the basketball. Have you seen that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're basically like everybody in the group, and this is a room full of like people like, okay, everybody watch this video, you're told what to do, and count how many times the basketball is passed. So everyone in the whole group, these are all like scientists from everywhere, study this stuff, and they're all told, do that. So they focus that, and then I'm watching it, I'm like halfway in between the video, this man in a gorilla suit walks through, waves, and walks on. And then at the end, this is the keynote speaker, she asks, everybody, how many times was the ball bounced? And everyone raises their hand. And then she asked, how many times who noticed the gorilla? And everyone's like, there's like three of us kind of like casually raise our hands. Like, that's all I noticed. Like everyone's perception, we all tend to fixate and focus and perceive the world how we're told to see it. And and even another study she did. So she was in this building, in this tech building, and they put up like a whole wall that everyone would, hallway, everyone crosses all the time with these, it was all Playboy, like naked women and stuff, and nobody freaking noticed it. Like everyone's just like, we have our blinders on, and how we perceive thing is always like this. And it's amazing how even people who study it, we have our blinders on how things should be. So how to like what you're doing, I love, because you're really addressing that as the core of a lot of your builds. It's like, no, what can we do that isn't just within the structure of what we think is the only way to do things?
All right, exactly. Like there's so much. There's like POV is like, it's not like a one set thing, right? Like a perspective isn't a one set thing. There's so many like directions. There's so many things that you could pay attention to, and that's something that architecture school really teaches you. Is like, look at the weird things, right? And like that's something that our instructors would always do. At first, I thought it was kind of weird that they would always do it. Like they'll go to a building, right, and then they'll look at it, right, and it could be like the craziest looking building. And then they'll walk up to like the door and then like, wow, look at this handle. And I'm like, all right, guys.
What are you guys? You're like, but then you start looking at it, right? You start like, wait a minute. Like, I think it's like every time I take a course or do something like about a specific art creation form, it switches your brain. You're just like, or like one of my favorite classes was like this class on drawing and light, and basically at the end, it's like you're learning to sculpt with light and how to teach that, because everything's just sculpting with light, right? There's no light in a space, there wouldn't be the depth or any of that. But like how little tiny things just like trigger your brain to like go down rabbit holes of like, perception. That to me, I just awesome, fascinates me.
I just noticed that little window right there in that space.
That
like
one?
it's just so funny. Like it's just kind of cool. Like it's just kind of like, oh yeah, here's a window. Like by the way, but I was gonna say, I was like, I think we need to have like at least 2 or 3 more interviews because it's like
Yeah, we
don't
should
have enough.
invite James. I want to invite James on.
Yeah,
We
we'll
all
never
3 of
finish.
us. No, that would
We'll
be fun.
never finish.
But I think it's so fun. I love Twitter Spaces, but I love like
Yeah.
this because then we can record like because everything's gonna change so fast. Like
Yeah.
and like just even if it's like once every couple months we meet up and like walk through our spaces and you guys can talk about what you're doing and what you've learned. I think that'd be really freaking cool.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
Awesome. Well, I mean, this has been amazing. I'm stoked that like, look at this. I mean, I'm going to have all the links for everybody to check out the spaces and all your other amazing projects that you do. But thank you for coming on here. I'm sure we could chat forever, but we both have to get back to work, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm like,
I'm the same way. I'm like, I got to go too. I'm like, fuck, I got to go. I have so much shit to do, but I am so stoked. This has been, I mean, for me, I love this kind of stuff. This is my Netflix, you know?
Yeah.
Here, let me stop sharing and thank you again, Hard, for being on here. And I think this is a conversation hopefully we can continue having and then bring on our buddies who have blown my mind as well, right? And that's the best thing, just learning from each other.
Yes, I agree. I'm excited to talk more with James and stuff, and just letting everybody see our videos. I wonder if eventually, like, we could start doing like reactions like this, kind of like live to people, and like them getting just to see like the uncut, unfiltered versions of like Fractillions Hard and like James just going at it, and it's like
dude, I'm all for it. That's what my Twitch is about. It's just random. I mean, it's kind of focused on. I do this with Decentraland builders, exactly what I'm doing with you, but like it's just fun. It's not meant to be like super like structured. It's meant to be like a conversation.
Yeah.
Cool.
I agree. But yeah, thanks for having me. It was really fun.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great rest of your day, and can't wait to see what you build next.
For sure. You too. All right. Bye. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.